Good day, students. Welcome to Mathgotserved.com. In this clip, we're going to be going over how to carry out long division of polynomial expressions. Don't forget, we have a practice problem at the end of this presentation for you to try out in order to demonstrate mastery of the contents of this presentation. So be sure to watch the entire thing and then try out the practice problem. Alright, to help us refresh our memory on the procedures for carrying out the long division algorithm for polynomials, we're going to review the process of dividing numbers, okay? The arithmetic application of the long division that most of us have studied before in the past. So for instance, let's say we're dividing the number 467 by 3, okay? And want to divide this using the long division algorithm. So how do we go about accomplishing this? So we said about long division bars. The dividend goes underneath the long division bar and the divisor goes on the outside. Okay, so you're going to go, first of all, you divide, right? 4 divided by 3, 1, and then you multiply. 3 times 1 is 3, and then you subtract, which is 1, and then you bring down, you have 16, and then you repeat the process again. Okay, so let's go ahead and make a list of the procedures we just underwent to come up with this answer. So step 1, you divide, right? And then you multiply the component of the quotient with your divisor, right? And then when you get the answer, you then subtract that factor from the dividend, subtract, and then you bring down a digit from the the decimal place before it, okay? And then you bring down. When you bring down, step 5, you repeat steps 1 to 4 until you're done. Okay, so let's repeat the steps again. So we're now going to divide 16 divided by 3. How many times? 5. So 3 goes into 16 5 times. So you divide, multiply. 5 times 3 is 15. Multiply, and then you subtract this factor from 16. Get 1. And then you bring down 7. Alright, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. And we're going to repeat the steps again. So divide. How many times is 3 going to 17, or 17 divided by 3 is 5 times. 5 times 3 is 15. So divide, multiply, and then we subtract. Right? There's nothing else to bring down because we're done. So in this particular problem, the quotient is 155. Your remainder is 2, right? So the answer to this problem, this division problem, is 155, the quotient, plus the remainder divided by the divisor. Bam, bam. All right, so there you have it. Okay, so we're going to apply this same idea, these same steps to a much more sophisticated problem, namely division of polynomials. All right, so for number 1, let's say we're looking at this. We're looking at a quartic polynomial with 4 terms as our dividend. So 16x squared minus 16x plus 4x squared. 4x to the 4th minus 9. And we're going to be dividing that with a linear binomial, -4 plus 4x. All right, so let's do it. Okay, so something to keep in mind when you're dividing by long division, even also when you're using synthetic division too, is you want to rewrite the divisor and dividend in standard form and insert missing degree terms with placeholders. Okay, so just a side note, the expression that comes first is known as your dividend, and then the expression that you're dividing by is your divisor. So just keep that in mind. So divisor over dividend is equal to quotient plus remainder over divisor. So let's do it. So we're going to rewrite in standard form with placeholders where necessary. So you have a quartic, you're missing a cubic term, so we'll put a placeholder for that. Quadratic, linear, and constant. So let's do it. So we're going to have quartic terms first. That's the highest degree. You start from the biggest and then you descend. After the 4th degree term is the cubic, the 3rd degree term is missing, so we're going to use a placeholder, 0x to the 3rd. Okay, next is the quadratic term, 16x squared. Linear term, negative 16x. Constant, minus 9. Bam. And then your divisor, the same applies. Write it in standard form. The linear term first, minus your constant. Okay. So we're ready to set up the long division bar. So that goes our long division bar right there. So we're just going to follow the same sequence of steps that are outlined here, okay? So put your divisor on the outside. And then your dividend underneath the long division bar, 4x to the 4th, plus 0x to the 3rd, plus 16x squared, minus 16x minus 9. Okay, let's do it. So here, we're going to start by dividing. So what on earth do we divide? For every iteration of division, you are going to just divide leading terms. So here, the leading term of your divisor is 4x, and the leading term of your dividend is 4x to the 4th. So that's what you divide, okay? So let's do it. So you're going to divide 4x to the 4th by 4x. So you remember your quotient property of exponents, right? Whenever you're dividing exponents of the same base, you subtract the powers, right? Subtract the powers and divide the coefficients. That's the deal. So here, 4 over 4, 4 divided by 4 is just 1, okay? And then you subtract the powers. So this is x to the 1st. You just subtract 1 from 4. That will give you 3. So 4x to the 4th over 4x to the 1st power is 1x to the 3rd. If the coefficient is 1, you don't need to write it. Okay, so just put x to the 3rd. So this is our division step. So after you divide, you're now going to multiply. What are we multiplying? Multiply that quotient component by your divisor, just like we did in the review steps right here, right? Then multiply that, distribute it out. You're going to get 4x to the 4th minus 4x to the 3rd. Okay, so that's placed underneath your dividend strategically in such a way that place values align. So you're going to have 4x to the 4th minus 4x to the 3rd. So just something to remember is that division is basically repeated subtraction of factors. That's why we keep subtracting these factors from the dividend, because that's what division is. So we're now gonna, so we divided, multiplied. Step 3 is to subtract. So we're gonna subtract this expression from what we have here. So another way to subtract two polynomials is to take the first polynomial and add the opposite of the second one. So basically distribute this minus across these two terms. So you're going to add the opposite. This becomes plus, minus, plus upon distribution of that negative sign. And then we're going to have, combine these two. That should always cancel out. The first term should cancel out to 0. And then we have 4x to the 3rd. So this is the subtraction step. And then step 4, we're going to bring down the next term. Next term is the quadratic term, 16x squared. All right, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. What we're going to do next, we're now going to repeat the whole process again. So we're doing the same thing over and over again until we are done. So to divide, remember we focus on the leading terms. We're going to divide 4x to the 3rd by 4x. Divide coefficients and subtract powers of the exponents with the same base. So 4 over 4 is just 1. Right? And then x to the, so this one, let me show you the work right here. You subtract 1 from the power. So x to the 3rd, x to the 1, you just take 1 takes 1 from the power of x to the 3rd, so it becomes x squared. Okay? So plus 1x squared. Coefficient is 1. You don't need to write it. Just write x squared. So that's multiply. I'm sorry, that's divide. That's what you do first. Now we're going to multiply, okay? Multiply that portion of your quotient by your divisor, 4x minus 4. Distribute across these two terms. You have 4x to the third minus 4x squared. All right, so this result will be placed underneath this cubic binomial that we have here. So 4x to the third minus 4x squared. So that's the divide step. I'm sorry, the multiply step. And then now we are going to subtract. Okay, so subtract these two polynomials. So subtract. So subtraction is the same thing as adding the opposite. Distribute this minus across these two terms. It becomes a plus, minus, plus. Combine downwards. The first term cancels out. And then 16x squared plus 4x squared becomes 20x squared. That's your subtraction operation. And then you bring down. Okay, just repeating the same process over and over again. So bring that down. So it's 20x squared minus 16x. Okay, that was a 6 right there, looking like a 10. Bam, okay. And then repeat the process again, all right? Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So let's start with the first part, which is to divide. Divide leading terms, right? 4x and 20x squared. You divide those. So we have 20x squared divided by 4x. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And then you subtract the powers here. 2 minus 1 is just 1. 5x to the 1 is just 5x. So place that in the linear column, plus 5x. And then you multiply that term with your divisor, 4x minus 4. Distribute that out. And then you get 20x squared minus 20x. Put it underneath this quadratic binomial. So that's the multiply step. And what do we do next? After we multiply, we subtract. Alrighty, so let's subtract that out. So subtract this factor. So when you subtract, you add in the opposite. So this becomes a plus, minus, plus. And then combine downwards. The first term, the quadratic terms are opposites, so they cancel out. That should always happen. Okay. Then you get 16 plus 20 is 4x. So that's the subtraction step. What we're going to do now is bring down. All right. Bring down that negative 9. Bring that down. 4x minus 9. So one more iteration of the divide, multiply, subtract, bring down sequence of operations, and we should be done with the problem. Okay. All right, so let's do it. So we're going to divide, or another thing you can do is you can pause the video and try it out on your own and see if your answer aligns with what we're about to get. Okay, so let's divide. Divide what are we dividing? Leading terms. Okay. Leading term of this component of our dividend, which is 4x, divided by the leading term of the quotient, which is 4x. Divide that out, you get 1. And then you multiply. So put the 1 here, positive 1. And then you multiply that 1 by 4x plus 4 minus 4. So you get 4x minus 4. All right, position it down here, 4x minus 4. Now you subtract, right? Subtraction is basically adding the opposite. All right, so let's do that. So just distribute this minus across these two terms. So you have, this becomes a plus, minus, plus. Add downwards, combine downwards, this cancels out. Negative 9 plus 4 is negative 5. Okay, so there you're done. There's nothing else to bring down. So for this particular problem, let's box the review question out. So for this particular problem, your quotient is the polynomial expression on the top, which is x to the third plus x squared plus 5x plus 1. And your remainder is what you have on the bottom, -5. Okay? And then the answer to the problem, is your quotient, x to the third plus x squared plus 5x plus 1, plus your remainder, which is going to be plus on a negative number, plus mixing negative, -5 over your divisor, which is 4x minus 4. Alrighty, so ladies and gentlemen, there goes the answer to your problem. That's how you do a long division. If you have any questions, let us know in the comment section below what steps you find confusing and we can clarify for you. But now it's your turn to do a practice problem. Alright, so it's now time for your practice problem. We're just going to give you one question to try out because we want to make sure you focus on the steps. So pause and try this. Let's say you were to divide -80 x to the third plus 120x plus 10x to the fourth plus 32. All right, this quartic polynomial with 4 terms. So you're dividing it by the linear binomial 10 plus 10x. So what we'd like you to do at this time is pause the video presentation, try the practice problems, and then we're going to show you what the answer is momentarily. Alrighty, so here goes the solution to the practice problem. So how well did you do? If you got it right, everything perfectly correct, go ahead and destroy that like button for us. If you have any questions, specify it in the comment section below. Just let us know what step it is and we'll be more than glad to assist you. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this presentation and by supporting our channel with your likes, subscriptions, and comments. Don't forget, tons of support resources can be found at Mathgotserved.com or the links in the description below. Thanks again for watching and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.